In front of me, I have 4 of the most well-known stubby pressure washer wands, ranging from the Obsessed Garage OG Spec'd Mosmatic pressure washer gun, the brand new active swiveling pressure washer gun, MTM SGS 28 Easy Pull, and my go-to, which is the Mckillans pressure washer wand. So we're gonna be testing these out to really see which one is the best value. Obviously, the OG Spec'd Mosmatic is well known for being the most premium of the range here, but you pay for it. This thing was $190, $192, I think. So very, very expensive. Is it worth it? In my personal opinion, components-wise, yeah, it's fantastic, but I will say, using it for the first time today, I was out detailing some cars, and this is the only pressure washer wand where I actually got a little bit fatigued holding it, which was an interesting fact to me. It is definitely feeling heavier than some of the other ones, but with all that said, the components on this thing are top notch. The swivel on the back is very, very, very fluid and spun very, very easily. The quick connect up top notch as well. Is it still worth that $192 range though? That's gotta be up to you. Personally, I would not go that route in my personal opinion. But in today's video, we're going to be comparing these side by side. We're gonna be looking at just the overall design of them. We're gonna be testing out the weight. We're gonna open them up and look at the internals of each of these, how well the swivels work, and then we will also be using a force gauge here to find out how much pressure is needed to compress the trigger, especially under load. We're gonna test that hooked up to a pressure washer, because if that changes anything, that's what the number that we're really gonna wanna know. Doesn't really matter how much pressure it takes while we're just standing here not using it. So we're gonna hook it up to a pressure washer and test it that way. So let's get into this. Okay, so first up, let's go ahead and look at the overall design features of these things. As you can see, all of them are basically a quick connect in the front, quick connect at the rear, and they all have a swivel. So this is the Mckillans. This one retails right around 60, 65 bucks. Fantastic little pressure washer wand here, and as you can see, the quick connect swivel is very, very fluid. It works really, really nicely. Brass connection point up front. Moving on to the SGS 28 from MTM. This one retails around $85. You do have stainless steel components here though. Same, about the same length for the quick connect. However, this one is definitely a different swivel. I would say it's a little bit harder to turn, but possibly feels a little more fluid. Nope, I take that back. The Mckillans is easier to turn and feels more fluid to me, just anecdotally here. But again, you can see the pivot point is way up here versus the Mckillans is back here. Moving on to the active, the new one. Again, this is kind of, I think they designed this going after this market here, trying to keep everything nice and compact. As you can see, the quick connect is substantially smaller than these ones. And how they do it is they just move it's basically the same thing, but they move this whole mechanism up into the handle so it doesn't stick out as much, keeping it very, very compact. So this one is great. Very, very fluid also, but does seem like it needs a little bit more pressure to get it to spin. So we'll kind of test that once we get it hooked up to the pressure washer as well. And then again, you do have a quick connect up front, and that is stainless steel. And this one also is the only one where that quick connect runs completely flush up to the body. There's no threads seen there. And that is what was the biggest impact to me when I was using this thing, is that feature right there. The foam cannon, when you have that hooked up, because there's not as much length there, it was less torque on my hand. So it was really nice and comfortable to use. And last but not least, we have the Obsessed Garage OG Spec'd Mosmatic pressure washer wand here. Mosmatic quick connect up front. Really, really good feeling. It feels really strong. The spring in it feels a little bit stronger than some of these other ones, which is a good and bad thing, right? For longevity, that's probably gonna last the longest, but for swapping out your tips, having a spring inside that's not as, as hard makes it a little bit easier to pull the collar back. However, this one, again, this is what makes this thing the OG Spec'd gun here, is that they did, again, remove this and move it internal so that this quick connect here is very, very flush compared to these other ones. You can see it's substantially shorter. The only other thing, and I saw a video that Obsessed Garage did about this, and in order to do this with a G thread so that this would have laid all the way flush, it added a huge price point. So he said it didn't make sense, but you do still see a thread there similar to these ones. So as far as overall design goes, I would have to say the Active is gonna win this one. It's definitely the most compact of them all, which again, is not a big deal, but it is nice that they made it such a powerful little unit into a nice compressed compact style. So I like that a lot. Now, I stated in a video prior, I wasn't a big fan of how this thing looked. I think it looked like a beluga whale with the way it sits. It's grown on me substantially as I've been using it. I really, really like it. So again, it's just an appearance thing. Some people are gonna like the way, you know, a basic pressure washer wand looks better. But functionality is very, very important. And this one was very, very comfortable to use. Next up, let's go ahead and weigh these things out and see exactly which one weighs the most. I already know with these two, this one's gonna be the lightest, and then this one, and then the Active. And I don't know about the Obsessed Garage yet. Again, it feels pretty heavy to me. Feels a little bit lighter than the Active, but let's go ahead and throw them on a scale. Okay, so first up is the MTM SGS 28. Plop it on the scale. We are at, actually, let's change this to ounces. So 21.5 ounces for that one. Next up is the Mckillans. Okay, there we go. 22.1 ounces, so slightly heavier. Moving on to the Active. Again, this one was the heaviest in the test I did previously. 24.5 ounces, so a good increase there. And last but not least, let's go ahead and try out the OG Spec'd Mosmatic gun here. Okay, and 26.6. So that confirms it. The Obsessed Garage one is the heaviest of the bunch. And again, guys, I have to say, when I was using this today, I felt it. It just wasn't quite as comfortable as some of the other ones that I've used in the past. So in order to decide why, let's take some measurements on this. Let's see how far you actually have to pull to get this back, because maybe that was what was cramping me. I was having to pull back further, I don't know. And also sort of the width of the handle, because that could add into that factor as well. All right, so in order to measure how far you actually have to pull back, I'm going to take a measurement from where the handle, the trigger starts, all the way to the back of the handle. That'll tell us how far you actually have to pull, you know, from fingers to palm, and how much you actually have to compress. So right off the bat, guys, the Active, let me get a measuring device here. The Active is going to be about 2.5 inches from the back of the handle to the back of the trigger. So as you can see there, just about 2.5 inches. And then we'll go on to the Mckillans, and the Mckillans is at about 2.25. So let me go ahead and film that for you guys. So here's the end of the trigger, and back to the end of the actual wand itself, the handle, 2.25. Now for the SGS 28, I'm gonna do the same thing here. Not quite 2.75, so we're gonna say 2.5/8. But let me go ahead and get that on camera for you guys. All right, so there we are with the trigger, and as you can see, almost 2.25, but, or sorry, 2.75. Actually, yeah, 2.75. We're gonna call it 2.75 right there. And last but not least, the Obsessed Garage OG Spec'd from there to there, and about the same. We're gonna be at 2.75. So as you can see here, back of the trigger to the back of the handle, 2.75. So with that, that tells us that the Mckillans is actually the smallest amount of pull that you have to do from fingers to palm. Now let's go ahead and open these guys up and look at the internals. Okay guys, so we have them all opened up now. The OG Spec'd Mosmatic, really impressive mechanism here for the trigger. And as you can see, it has that little stop in the middle and then it clicks over. And it's very, very fluid. So I can pull this whole mechanism out. And as you can see right in the front here, there's that little ball bearing that just goes over that lip, and that's what creates that little force for you to move. Again, this thing is rated for 5,000 PSI, so it's a very, very robust pressure washer wand. If you're using something like a really high-powered gas pressure washer, this is gonna handle it, I think. I don't see any issues with that stuff. As you can see, the swivel, so is made in Switzerland, and then the rest of it, you know, stainless steel components there, and then brass up here. The next one that we're gonna move on to is the SGS 28 from MTM. And a lot of people, and I think I may even have made this mistake before, saying that all of this is stainless steel as well, and I don't believe that is. I believe that is zinc coated. I think that's what it is, zinc coated brass or something like that. It's a coating over the brass. Then stainless steel components throughout the rest of it. As far as the construction goes, as you can see, this is all independent. And then the actual trigger itself just fits in these two little slots there, so one on this side and one on the other side, and that's all you're using to pull on the trigger. And then it just compresses against the mechanism there and turns the pressure washer on. How robust is this? I don't know. That doesn't give me I mean, it's just plastic. Over time, I could see that wearing down. But it is what it is, and it is very, very comfortable to use. It is very easy to pull the trigger on this pressure washer wand. We'll leave that for now. Moving on to the Mckillans. As you can see, the Mckillans, again, brass connection point up here, brass internal here, and then the rest is the stainless. Again, I think that's just zinc oxide or whatever kind of coating that is. It's still on brass. You take out the whole mechanism on the Mckillans, and as you can see, there's two pins running, or sorry, one pin running through both sides of the trigger so it stays in place. Has a nice little metal piece there compressing against what engages the pressure washer wand. So very, very nice construction there. I like that a lot. And last but not least, we have the active, which is going to be the most complicated of them all. As you can see here, guys, still brass internal here, and then the stainless steel quick connects. As you can see, this is moved up into the body of the unit itself. This is where the swivel is. So now you can see it. Same thing with the MOSTMATIC, although that is much more compressed and feels really, really good. But for the trigger mechanism that also does that stop similar to the MOSTMATIC on this active, you can see there's a ball bearing up top, okay? Then if you take this out, there's actually a spring right there into another ball bearing at the other side, and that's what creates that stop. So if we remove that, then you can see no more stop in between. It just goes fluid. Let me try and pull this out. I don't know what's gonna happen here. You can see there's a pin involved here. All right, guys, I'm gonna put the camera down real quick and try and wiggle this out. Okay, the pin comes out, so we can actually remove that. And then the rest of it comes out. You can see the other ball bearing and the spring fell out. Okay, now we have the mechanism out. So as you guys can see, there's actually quite a bit of plastic up here, and that's just the little mechanism making it so that it does that half stop and then clicks the rest of the way. I personally just wish they didn't do that and they just left it as is. It seems like you can remove this if you want to. I guess it's just a pin system, so you could remove that, but I don't know. I don't have any need for having that little half start and then click across. I'm used to not having that. The only one that does have it is the MOSTMATIC, and I really don't personally see a reason for it unless maybe there's a reason if you're using a really, really powerful pressure washer. But we're detailing cars here, guys. We're just going for the maximum gallons per minute rating on the pressure washer and then using the pressure washer at about 1200 PSI or so. So not a big deal there. All right, guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and just start putting these back together. As I'm doing that though, I wanna kind of give the award to two of these for being the best internals in my personal opinion. It's, again, just personal here, but for me, the least amount of plastic, the better. So the MOSTMATIC with this amazing mechanism here for that trigger, that's gonna be a winner. And then the other one's gonna be the Mckillans. That's just very, very simple and then pinned into the actual unit itself. The MTM, I don't like that this trigger handle is just plastic on both sides. And then the active has just, again, personally, it's just a personal preference. I would just wish they would have simplified that internal and not made it so that it clicks and just ditched all that plastic. Alrighty guys, so I've got all of these all back together. Let's go ahead and head out to the front of the shop, hook them up to a pressure washer. All are gonna have the same tip on them, and we're gonna test the actual strength it takes to pull the trigger back. Again, none of them are crazy. It's very, very easy to pull them back. However, the SGS is known to be super, super easy. So let's go test them under load on the pressure washer. Okay guys, so in order to test this, I can't get my gauge all the way up here. So I'm gonna pull from back here. I'm gonna set up a zip tie around the handle at the lowest point that I possibly can, and then measure it that way. All right, now this gauge is super cool. I changed it into pounds, so it'll tell us how many pounds of strength we need in order to engage the trigger and get the unit spraying. And then also I'm gonna set it to peak on this, which means even if I stop pulling, it's gonna record the highest amount of pull that I had to do. Okay, so I've got everything hooked up. I'm using the Kranzlet 1122 TST, I believe is what the unit's called. Again, we're gonna start off with the SGS 28. I'm assuming this one's gonna be the least amount of resistance just because it's, it's labeled that way. It's labeled as the easy pull. So I'm gonna assume that's the case. We'll start with this one. And I'm using a 3.5 nozzle. It's gonna be the same across the board. So here we go, guys. I'm gonna try and keep it as low as I possibly can. Go ahead and pull. There we go, it initiated, and interesting, 4.4 pounds of pressure to compress the trigger. As far as the swivels go, Very nice. Okay, so next up we're gonna do the Mckillans, same pressure washer tip. I'm gonna zero it out, okay? And here we go. Let me get this lined up, try and get it to the bottom as far as I can. And here we, 6.9 pounds. So definitely felt, again though guys, that initial burst, and then it's very, very easy to hold on to. So definitely though, so far, SGS is much, much easier to pull. And last but not least, the Mckillans. Wow, interesting. A lot more pressure to go. When it's under load, when it's not under load, it spins pretty freely. When it's under load, it's still there. You're still able to spin it, but man, I cannot get it to move on its own. So good to know there. Okay, moving on to the active. Again, same tip. Again, once again, zero it out. Here we go. 5.4 pounds. The active, a little more tension there to get it to go. It's very, very fluid, but it takes a little bit more to push it. Okay, now last up, we have the OG Spec'd Mosmatic. Clearing this out again. Last one, here we go. Let me get this lower. Let me try and get it as low as I can. Here we go. Wow, 4. Interesting. Let me zero that out and try it again. .5 on that one, but we're gonna call that 4 because I was able to get that. That's very, very, very easy to pull. And this thing's just super fluid, super easy to turn, very, 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 very high-end swivel here. Really nice. Alrighty guys, so my final thoughts on these 4 different pressure washer wands. I gotta say, easiest to pull and best swivel is gonna go to the Mosmatic. Now at $192, geez, I'm dripping a lot. $192, is it worth it? Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic gun. I would not go that route personally. I bought it because I make YouTube videos. I'm able to use it as a tax write-off. If it weren't for that, I would not have spent $192 on that. The Mckillans, for me, is gonna be the best value play here. Great little pressure washer wand, built well, and it's $60 to $65 depending on when you go to buy it. It's usually right around that price. Fantastic. The swivel, however, on this one, as you can see, it's very, very smooth here, but under pressure, it performed the worst. So just keep that in mind. If the swivel is really, really important for you, this, for me, even though it got tight under pressure, I'm still able to grab the hose and spin it around. Not a big issue for me. I still love this one. The swivel works fantastic for my purposes. If you want to be able to just pull and have it just, you know, unwind on its own, the Mosmatic's probably gonna be the best option for you. The SGS, easy to pull, just a great all-around little pressure washer wand. Didn't really win in any aspect. I mean, it's very comfortable to use and all that kind of good stuff. Didn't win in any aspect compared to these other ones. Again, easiest to pull and best swivel, Mosmatic. Best value, I'm gonna say the Mckillans. And then, man, this one I'm a little bit confused by. Best all around, may go here. The most compact, it's very, very easy to use and very comfortable to use. I talked about that in a previous video with how compact it is. Very, very comfortable to use. The swivel worked great. Again, the compact design is a great feature, and that's what they were going after, they were talking about the Obsessed Garage version. They wanted to go nice and compressed like that. Did a fantastic job on creating this thing. This is 80 bucks, and I think it's worth it. I mean, if I'm looking here and here, I'm personally definitely going here. I'm saving myself $110 and going with the active. But again, for your everyday use, this is my choice, the Mckillans at 60, 65 bucks. So that's it for today's video, guys. I hope that helps you. Again, I talked about the active in a previous video, and I wasn't sure if it was a good value or not at 80 bucks. And I have to say, fantastic value, because I think these are similarly comparable. The components are different. This one is more robust inside, I would say. This one has a lot more plastic, but very, very, very comfortable pressure washer wand here. I hope that gives you an idea of which way you want to go. The SGS 28 from MTM, again, didn't win in any aspect, but a very, very, very well-known, very good pressure washer wand here. If you have this one or you're thinking about buying it, buy it. It's a fantastic unit. So again, guys, I hope that helps you. Please make sure to like the video, make sure you're subscribed, turn on that notification bell, and we will see you on the next one.